Welcome to the Yankee and Canuck podcast, Best Picture Series, where we talk about all the Academy Award Best Pictures, past to present.
And I'm your host, a Yankee.
And I'm your host, a Canuck.
And today we're going to be talking about The Deer Hunter, 1978 film. This is the 51st film to win Best Picture.
This is the prequel to The Beer Hunter with Homer J. Simpson.
I know, right? Well, won, I think, 5 Oscars. So on top of Best Picture, Best Director for Michael Cimino. Best supporting actor for Christopher Walken. Best film editing and best sound. So basically, this film is about a bunch of guys that go to the Vietnam War. They're Russian-American guys, so played by Robert De Niro, John Cazale, John Savage, Christopher Walken, Meryl Streep. So it's a pretty star-studded cast by today's standards.
Yeah, hell of a cast.
Yeah,
this is kind of one of the big 4 Vietnam or Vietnam-era movies in a 10-year period. Because you had this, you had Apocalypse Now, you had Platoon, Full Metal Jacket. There's other films too, but those are the big 4.
This is a pretty ambitious film, and it's also kind of an artsy movie, honestly. You would think a movie like this would be like a traditional quote-unquote war film. You know, we've seen a few already in this series. This one's a little unorthodox, to say the least. It's kind of interesting in some ways. I think what's more interesting to me about this film is the director, Michael Cimino. The guy is, or was a nut job. He died about 10 years ago as of this recording, I think. He was one of those guys, in terms of artists, that is just like, I have a grand vision. I'm going to do all of this. And he would end up just overrunning the budget, just spending too much on materials and so many takes. Oh my God, Heaven's Gate, yes. Here's the thing.
That's one of the big bombs of all time.
United, it bankrupted United Artists, if I'm not mistaken. I heard that Heaven's Gate was so notorious, and when I finally saw it, I was like, well, that was certainly a movie. That's certainly a movie, all right. That's a Western film. Yeah. But when you hear the crazy stuff he did in that film, I circle back to Deer Hunter and I'm like, what did this guy do? And of course, when it came to Deer Hunter, he did, increase the budget. It went over budget. It was kind of a miracle that this film was a big smash success, honestly.
Yeah.
They made it for like $15 million and it made over 49 in the box office. So it did well. Yeah, it did well. And like I said, 5 Oscars, one of them being Best Picture, and he won Best Director. And his already big ego got even bigger, unfortunately. So
I'm sure, yeah. I haven't seen too many of his other movies, but I know he wrote or co-wrote the screenplay for one of the Harry Callahan movies. Which one was it? Magnum Force, I think? Yeah, Magnum Force.
Yeah,
so
he also
wrote that movie.
He did Silent Running as well, an early 70s film.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I saw that one. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of pre-Star Wars-esque, I guess you could say. In terms of like, it's a science fiction movie. It's got science fiction elements anyway. But he had a hand in the screenplay for that. So that's kind of how he got his break in the film industry.
Another interesting thing about this movie, although it came out in 1978 at the end of the year, the full release of the movie across the U.S. was in 79. So most people actually saw this movie in February and March. So imagine that. You watch this movie and then a few months later in the summer, you get to see Apocalypse Now. One of my favorite, if not my favorite movie. Like, holy shit. Damn good year.
You get your fill for Vietnam War movies,
Yeah.
Also, tragically, John Cazale passed away. This was his last film.
Yeah.
He was suffering from lung cancer and because he was smoking like 3 packs a day or something like that.
Yeah. They actually had to film his scenes first.
Yeah.
And then he passed away before the film was completed, apparently.
Correct. Yeah. He passed away in the beginning of the year, I think March of 1978. And of course, it didn't make its official debut until the end of the year. And then, of course, wider release a few months later in 1979. Yeah, it kind of sucks. And there's some scenes in the film where you look at him and he kind of looks like but he was he was afflicted with a terminal illness. So, I mean, that that makes sense, unfortunately.
Yeah, hell of an actor.
Yeah, very, very esteemed career. Honestly, it's obviously he was in the first 2 Godfather films, but he was also in Dog Day Afternoon.
Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah.
And then this one. So he was really in a lot of Academy Award-winning films by the time he died. So hell of an accomplishment, honestly.
Absolutely. So before we deep dive into this movie, when you look at all the other movies nominated, you're like, half of them, it's like, what are these movies? I don't know how many of these movies you've seen, but
none of them.
Obviously, it was a good movie. None of them, okay.
No.
And so
this one's
a good one.
I've never heard of any of these other Best Picture nominees ever in my life.
Yeah, one of them is loosely based off a true story. I know that one. That's the one in the Turkish prison or whatever. That one, it's like drug smuggling, and they get busted and they get thrown into a prison outside of Istanbul or something like that. Um, I forget what it's called, Midnight something. But yeah, I mean, the thing that's shocking to me, it shouldn't be shocking because, as always, I'm going to mention some horror movies that came out in '78. Look, there's a little movie called Halloween that came out that year. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. You know,
A
John
little indie
Carpenter.
film, I think.
Little
Yeah.
indie film. Dawn of the Dead was that year too. George A.
Oh,
Romero. I
that's
mean,
pretty cool.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You had some great movies, great horror movies that came out that year. And quite frankly, I mean, you can make an argument that maybe Halloween should have won Best Picture.
I
But
don't know about
you
that,
know,
but
at least nominated. Damn it.
I don't know about that either. It's just, I would say, like, when it comes to Carpenter, just to quickly touch on it, I mean, he's an okay filmmaker in my opinion, but of course, The Thing is one of the best horror movies ever. So,
Oh yeah,
and The
that's a damn near
Escape,
masterpiece right there.
yeah, and The Escape from movies are pretty cool for what they are, even though they're kind of dumb. They're fun.
Yeah,
They Live is interesting. So he's got an interesting filmography.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of other good horror movies that came out as well. So of course they don't get any recognition. So, but I did want to bring those up. Jaws 2 also was out, which obviously is nowhere near as good as the first one. Which
But it's the better of the sequels, the best sequel.
yeah, it's actually not bad at all. It gets a lot of crap, but I think it's all right sequel in my opinion. But it's
The
kind
best
of a
sequel
watch
in that
once or twice.
series, I just want to really preface that.
Yeah,
Not of all time, no.
correct. Yeah, it's kind of a watch once or twice, and then you're done with it. Jaws 1, I mean, I can watch that anytime, any day. So
Pretty much, yeah. And also, I think this is the first time I believe Meryl Streep was nominated for anything. Is that correct?
I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah, she is, of course, the most
and after this,
nominated
she was
woman.
nominated for everything.
She is the most nominated woman in the Academy Awards history. 26 nominations,
Yeah.
I think. Only 3
It's
wins, though.
Yeah.
One of them being Sophie's Choice, which is actually really good.
Mhm.
She 100% deserved the Oscar for that one. I forget the other 2. I think it's The Iron Lady is another one. I forget what the third one is. But yeah, I mean, she's
Yeah.
going to appear in the next film we're going to talk about. And she's going to appear in another film we're going to talk about a few years from now, at least relative to the series, and a few episodes from now. Yeah, I mean, she's just like one of the most famous actresses in screen history.
Incredible actress. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, she's very good at what she does, clearly. Hence the nominations. Yeah, but anyway, let's get into the film. So, yeah, this is, like I mentioned, a kind of a weird movie in the sense where it's a very
okay.
non-traditional narrative, I feel.
Yeah.
Did you get the same feeling with that?
Yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's definitely different in that sense. Although how it's applied works because there's a beginning, there's the during, and then there's the after effect. So there's like those 3 parts you could put together, like before the war, during the war, after the war,
Yeah.
kind of thing to some degree. But yeah, the film itself is kind of spliced up a little weird, and it does kind of mess with the pacing a bit, I think. But
The pacing is
all in all,
atrocious in this movie.
yeah, and
It's
I,
like,
yeah.
like
It's
first
still
of
a
all,
good movie. And it's one of those movies that kind of stays with you, especially some of those scenes.
some scenes,
So
yeah. I mean, this isn't the first time I've seen this film. I tried to watch this film
yeah,
many years ago because I've heard about it, and I've already seen Heaven's Gate at that point, and I was like, oh boy. Well, he won the best picture and all that crap in this film, so how good is this? And I remember trying to watch it, and I never could finish it. There was just something about this film that was off-putting to me, so it just didn't capture my interest. So
yeah.
this is the second time I've seen this.
Same
And
actually. I've seen it once before, a long time ago, and I only remembered a couple scenes. Obviously, it's pretty obvious
Same.
which scene I would remember. I remember thinking the movie was fine, but now having seen it again after such a long period of time, I definitely like the movie a lot more than I did the
I
first time
see.
around.
I have the opposite opinion, but
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, well, primarily because the pacing is just awful. Like, first of all, this movie's 3 hours long. This did not need to be 3 hours long. That seems to be a mantra of mine when it comes to these kind of films. Very few films in this series like deserve the 3 hour time run. This is not one of them.
Yeah. I mean, there were some movies we said, like Godfather. I had another hour. I'll watch it. I'm happy.
Yeah, Godfather would be fine, especially if it adapted more parts from the book, the original book. By the way, there's no source material for this movie, so just a script. But very interesting thing about the script, though, it's actually based on something. It's based on an unproduced screenplay. It's called The Man Who Came to Play. So 2 other guys wrote this thing, Louis A. Garfinkel and Quinn K. Reddecker. So it was originally set in Las Vegas and it dealt with Russian roulette games.
Whoa. Okay.
So what basically happened was the producer, Michael Dealey, he bought the script and he hired Michael Cimino to rewrite it. And what Cimino ended up doing is that he set it obviously in Pennsylvania. I think it was called, what was it called again? Clareton, Pennsylvania?
Clinton, I thought, or something like that.
Yeah,
Starts with a C, definitely. Yeah, you're definitely right.
Clareton, Pennsylvania.
Clareton.
Yeah. So he set that into a working class town because the opening shows them at a welding factory of some kind. So these blue collar workers that just kind of hang out and stuff. So the first half of the film is really about a wedding. Like one of the guys gets married. I think his name's Stevie, right?
Yeah, not first half. First, the third of the movie. The first hour.
The first literal hour of the film. Yeah,
the whole hour. Yeah, the whole hour.
That's what I mean. But
first
he changed all
the
that.
long wedding sequence, and then them hunting, and then them off to war.
Yeah, but basically Michael Cimino's big contribution is making it more Vietnam War centric, which I think is a brilliant move because it does elevate the stakes and it makes it more interesting in that sense. But we did not need a fucking hour of a goddamn wedding. It's like they saw The Godfather or like, all right, we're going to do The Godfather, but make it much, much, much longer. I'm like, why? No. Because I remember just sitting back. I'm like, oh, we're still doing the wedding? Oh my God, they're still doing like drinking and all this other stuff. And they're at a bar. And I'm just like, oh my, I understand they wanted to really set up these guys, right? Like we really needed to see exactly where they came from. And at one point they go hunting. Because at first I was like, what's the deer hunter? What's the title for this? Is it like an allegory of some kind? No, the main character is literally a deer hunter. So I'm like, okay, well, on the nose, we'll go with that. And it's Robert De Niro's character. I think his name's Mikey or whatever. And
yeah, Mikey.
Yeah,
Mikey.
and I'm like, here's the thing. When it comes to this film, it's so beautifully shot. So when you get to the outdoor scenes, the woodsy scenes, they're very, very beautiful. It's very precisely framed. It's like the every frame a picture kind of sentiment. Yeah. So I enjoyed watching that stuff. I like the composition. I like the blocking of the actors. I like how they're placed because it really does look like you could take a snapshot and you can hang it in your office or something or your house somewhere. It's just like, it's very scenic in that sense. But at the same time, it's just like it's overindulgent. I'm like, yeah, you're telling the story, but you're not at the same time. It's like you're kind of dragging things when you really shouldn't be. That's my main problem.
I mean, I definitely agree with you. I mean, the movie's 3 hours, like you said, and that's long, and it's a bit longer. It's quite a bit longer than it probably needed to be. Honestly, it didn't bother me that much, especially since I enjoy the movie for the most part. It's the first hour, like you were saying, that goes on way too long. The wedding and the hunt before. And that could have been cut down at least 20 minutes. I think.
20 minutes, yeah. It could have been 30 minutes max total runtime for that.
You know, it does, like you said, it does help you get familiar with some of the characters. Although it's almost a bit confusing at first. At least I thought so.
It really was, yeah.
Just for a bit, you know, who's who, who's going to Vietnam, who's staying, what does this person do, who's with who, are they together? You know, so this and that. It's not too bad, but it definitely took me a minute or two to figure out, you know, who's who and what's going on. And then, but I think it's also worth noting that I actually enjoy seeing the scenes before too, because I think there's something that's kind of often disregarded in a lot of movies. So it's kind of good to see the before, during, and after, and it's set up that way. So
yeah, I understand the logic.
Paint the picture, and you get a lot more the complete sense of the characters and the transformation, which is critical. But mind you, do it in a reasonable amount of time next time.
Yeah, that's why
there's the basic, you know. So
I mean, time is valuable real estate when you're telling a story. Yeah. So when you're meandering as much as you are in this film, you kind of you get. For me, I started getting bored, and when you get bored, you're not really paying attention to the film, you know, as much as you should be. So ultimately, my recollection of the first hour is like the only allusion to Vietnam is that some Green Beret guy comes into the bar and they give him like a drink or something. And that's something of an allusion to what the next phase of the movie is going to be. They're just suddenly in Vietnam. And that's the thing. After that first hour of them just powwowing and just kind of fooling around, drinking beer or whatever, all of a sudden you're right in the middle of Saigon and you're in the middle of this village and Robert De Niro is just laying next to some other guy who's dead and stuff. And then you have like a Viet Cong come in. Then you have an action scene. There's a flamethrower action and assault rifles and the helicopter comes in and stuff. And all of a sudden you see Christopher Walken and stuff come in. And it's funny too, really quickly. I mean, the principal characters are supposed to be Russian American, right?
Yeah, they're Americans of Russian descent. That's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, the principal characters, they can pass as Russian, I guess. they can pass as, I guess, Slavic origin, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
Even though, Robert De Niro and John Cazale is, they're both Italians, but I'm like, well, that's fine. Well, Christopher Walken is just like, maybe, but then you hear him talk, and then you're like, hey guys, what's up, fellow Russian Americans? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. I don't think the Russian aspect of their, that I don't think it's really that relevant, to be honest.
It really is, dude.
So,
the whole thing is in the very beginning of the film is just like they're in a Russian town. They're like women speaking in Russian. It's a Russian wedding. The whole wedding is so like Russian. It's very integral to these characters somehow. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, in the beginning, for sure, yeah.
That's why when you make it that obvious, and I can't really buy that they're Russian, it kind of hurts the narrative, in my opinion, if you're going to make it that, interwoven into it. So, I mean, like, as opposed to just passing, like, oh, I happen to be Russian-American, or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely doesn't have much of a significance throughout the whole movie. Just the beginning, really. So you learn a little bit more about them, but yeah, it doesn't really carry over.
It's just they hammer you over the head with it. But yeah, like you said, it ultimately
maybe one
matter.
scene with Christopher Walken at the hospital, which is a pretty intense scene. That part, the guy's questioning him. So wait, are you Russian? And so he's like, no, I'm American.
Yeah, I'm Russian. You can't tell from my accent.
Yeah, because he also wants to be careful what he says too, right? So.
Well, because that's the thing that happens much later. Because after we get into the introduction of the Saigon scene, and there's a helicopter and all that stuff, and they get captured by the Viet Congs, and then we get right to the next thing, which is they're already like POWs, and they're getting called up one at a time they're forced to play Russian roulette, and that's the bread and butter of the film right there. That's literally the poster. I think Robert De Niro with a pistol at his head or something.
Yeah, the Russian roulette scenes. There's multiple Russian roulette scenes but this initial one is with Nick and Mike and Steven in the POW camp.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can call it a camp, more like POW hut.
Yeah, hut. Really but they're definitely POWs.
Yeah, that part was crazy. Well, all the parts in Vietnam are pretty crazy and horrific, but that's complete disregard for human life across the board,
Oh yeah, human rights out the door. Well, that's the thing too. When that stuff, all that stuff starts happening, that's when the film gets more interesting. Not necessarily because there's action, but because there's stakes involved now. Because you get over the whole introductory scene, and then you get like thrown into the situation, and it almost makes me feel that the film should have really just opened with this. The film should have just opened with these guys, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Then you flash back to,
okay. Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, that would have worked so much better. Because,
that's interesting, actually.
Because when you start with a scene like that, and one of them is up there and they're forced to play Russian roulette, then you go back and you're like, okay, we don't know what's happening yet. We're anticipating something is going to happen. And in the process of doing so, you get to learn more about the characters. And then you go back to the camp. It would have been a non-linear story in that sense, but it would have really worked, in my opinion. The story is actually linear, but it's unorthodox, as I mentioned, because all of a sudden you're here and you're like, what the hell happened? And then the whole thing happens. And ultimately what happens is one of the guys, Stevie, they force him to play Russian roulette with Mikey, I believe. And then he misses on purpose. And then they put him in another little trap where it's like underwater, and they put a little cage door on top or something.
There's like a little cage that's dockside that's submerged.
Yeah, exactly.
So you basically are forced just to keep your head up just a little bit. And rats in there and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a body in there. It's like a form of torture. So ultimately, Mikey cooks up a plan with Christopher Walken's character. What was his name? Nicky, right?
Nick. Yeah.
Yeah. So so the two of them scheme, and they end up getting out of that situation with a big action scene. And then they get Steve out, and then they get out, and eventually a helicopter comes in, saves them. There's like a really cool scene before that where they're in the water. They they attach this, or they get latched onto this bridge that's just low hanging. Yeah. That's incredible how they did all that stuff, because it really looks like it's them, and it probably isn't them. But
no, I don't think it is.
It's staged so well that you think it's them. That's so the editing. Yeah. This won the Oscar for editing, so that's probably why. Because can't.
It's editor from The Godfather, right? So
was it? I don't know.
Yeah, it was the same editor from The Godfather.
Well, he did an amazing job, because I couldn't tell, and if I can't tell, unless I go frame by frame or something, but throughout the course of the film, if I can't tell, that's amazing editing. Yeah. So after that whole situation, what happens is like the helicopter goes away. Christopher Walken's in it, Nicky, but then the other two guys, they fall, and then I think Stevie hits some rocks, and you know.
Well, yeah, that's what happened was Steven hit rocks and both of his legs are like busted up, broken or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he lets go, but then Mike De Niro's character decides to drop to go help him and save him.
Yeah.
So he's not going to leave him there. So he drops as well. And then,
Yeah, and then that's when we get to the Christopher Walken scene that you were mentioning, where he's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're back in Pennsylvania, and Mike's back. Or no, shortly before that, I think I'm going to call him Christopher Walken because I'm going to forget his name. So Christopher Walken now is in a different part of Vietnam, and then he sees like they're playing Russian roulette, and then you can see Robert De Niro's in the background. So
yeah,
and stuff. And then you go to Pennsylvania. So that's what I mean. All of a sudden, you're slab dab in this part, and then you're slab dab in this part. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, well, what happened to Stevie, the John Savage character? What happened to him? And eventually you find out. So it's just more like, I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to be like, they're trying to blindside you into thinking like, oh, this happens. So you're left to wonder what happens here and there. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of confused now. Like, what's going on here? Is he dead now? Or are you trying to make me think he's dead? And you find out he's not, Stevie. And then you're like, okay, but where's Christopher Walken? Is he just gone? And then later on, you find out where he is through a weird situation. And it's just like, I don't know, man. If I were to read this script, I would have been so confused. I would have been like to Michael Cimino, okay, bro, what the fuck's going on here? I don't know what the hell's going on here. And he probably would have been waving his hands in the air like, oh, all these great things are happening. This big thing happens, and it's not in the script at all, but you have to imagine it and whatever. I imagine he's like one of those kind of guys. He's very artsy-fartsy. And I would have been like, okay, dude, can you come back here to planet Earth? Because you got to tell the story here, and I'm not following it. That's me, though. I can keep going on, but I won't. You get my point.
But yeah, like we were saying earlier, the roulette scene, it obviously plays a big part in this movie, and obviously plays a huge part at the end of the movie as well, which is just insane. It's a hell of a scene, very powerful and disturbing, and just the level of hopelessness and Christopher Walken's zombie, catatonic, heroined out face. At the end. So it's also worth noting, and a lot of people have discussed it, that there is no, and it's also a criticism about the movie. Although there's actually no evidence that this type of thing happened in Vietnam. Many vets and historians say that this never occurred. Russian roulette wasn't being, they didn't do this type of stuff. And so the movie does have some controversy surrounding it with regards to some of these scenes, right? And the overall depiction of the Vietnamese, of course, which is for sure problematic. But honestly, I'm not that tripped up about the roulette, even if it never happened, right? Specifically that it's a movie, right? The problem is when you have all this realism and effective attempts, and then you fabricate something that's really significant in the film, then you're going to get some blowback, rightfully so, right? So I don't see a reason to condemn this film because of the roulette scenes, which some people do, but I can see why people are upset about it. But
well, yeah, because like you said, it's misleading because you assume like, oh, that happened, and you go to Vietnam, like, so where are the Russian roulette underground games happening? So they're like, what are you talking about? None of that shit happens. So it's like,
so a lot of people are critical of the movie being, the fabrication. Some of it's over the top, and then some of it there's so much realism too. And then, so I mean, there is a lot of criticism in that regard. But I mean, the roulette stuff is very powerful. It's very important to the film, and
I mean,
it's that as well. So
it's the most notable thing in the film, honestly, because it happens only a couple of times, and it's very, very impactful and very suspenseful when it does. And you just stop everything and you just watch. And honestly, that is because it's the main selling point. Honestly, I felt like they could have done a little bit more to not spice it up. It's already spiced up enough, but it's just more like to
like, what more do you want, man?
Just more like just interwoven into the narrative a little bit more. I feel I'm just spitballing at the top of my head. It's just more like because the town stuff to me is just not that interesting, honestly, if I'm being completely honest. I think the Russian roulette stuff is way more interesting.
Well, they bring it back to the hunting, right? Because the whole one shot hunting, when he was hunting, one shot for the deer, and then, so there is a connection there, right? So
and honestly, when
the hunting is kind of like the symbolism of that, hunting is not really a game, but this roulette is, I mean, that's also not really a game. It is a game of or a horrible game of death, I guess, or playing with fate or playing with death. But so I mean, there's some sort of contrast, and they kind of analyze it.
Yeah, comparison.
You can analyze it in a certain way, but
yeah, I mean, I get that, but I'm talking about also the town stuff. Like the woodsy stuff is okay. and especially
Yeah,
when he comes back, De Niro's like super PTSD'd as well. And you can kind of tell he handles it way better than Stevie does and Nikki does. So
yeah, I mean, and yeah, their experiences. There's a lot of overlap, but also the outcome is different for them as well, right? So obviously, Steven has suffered tremendously to his body and his mind, and so
because eventually you find out he's alive through his wife, and his wife doesn't say anything when when De Niro meets her, Mikey meets her.
well, she herself is in kind of like a catatonic state, just
Yeah,
sitting
like
there
in shock. Well, yeah, her husband lost
Well,
his legs.
they don't know where he is too, right? For a while, or she wasn't saying.
She wasn't saying
where he is.
exactly.
So a lot of people, I think I don't know if they thought he like deserted. He went AWOL. She said that, right? And or someone said that.
Yeah,
So,
or they were just protecting him. I didn't. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like, I don't fully understand what the reason. That's my problem with the narrative. Like, it's just if it's not spelled out, then you have to just assume things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like they wanted to save the surprise for later, but I felt like there were more effective ways they could have done that.
Yeah.
Especially, it's just a little weird. It's a little weird too because you saw the two of them together, Mikey and Stevie, and then all of a sudden they're not there, and then it's just him, and it's just like, was Stevie behind in some apartment or shed or something somewhere? And then he comes back, he's like, oh, I don't know where he is. Oh, he's back? And I'm like, was he lost? I wasn't aware he was. It's just like there's just too much of an assumption.
Someone in Vietnam or?
Yeah, like in Vietnam, like after the helicopter scene, and then
so after the helicopter scene, he puts him on the Jeep with the South Vietnamese, and then they obviously are going to go take Steven to a hospital or something, right?
Yeah, but then he has no idea. Yeah, but then he doesn't know what happens to him, but that's not made abundantly clear to me. At least to me, it wasn't made abundantly clear. That's why when he came back to Pennsylvania, he's just like, he's back. I'm like, did you lose him? What? Did you lose track of him? Like,
I think there's also an element of Mike isn't going to tell the people in the town, obviously, what he's seen and what he's done and what Steven's been through as well, right? So he's also playing a little bit of say that again.
So he's like pretending he doesn't know where he is.
I think to some element, to some degree, rather, he is. I think.
But then that makes it a little confusing then because then when he's
I don't
trying
think
to
he
find
knows
him,
exact. He doesn't know that he's in that VA hospital. Obviously, he doesn't know that.
He knows he's alive, but he doesn't know where he is. Yeah, I mean, just already, I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
like that's what I mean. But here's the thing: like, ultimately, when it comes to this film, I mean, all that stuff happens, and then you get to the final scene where Christopher Walken's doing the Russian roulette thing, and then he loses and he blows his brains out. Then his body is shipped over to Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's a really harrowing scene, as you mentioned. And it's like it's really impactful, and it stays with you.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like really crazy, and then it ends with all of them singing "God Bless America" and stuff at the little bar.
At the bar, the Axel's bar, right? Not Axel. What's his name? John. Axel's the other guy.
I don't
but
know.
anyways, yeah, the ending was I get it, with the singing and what is it? God Bless America is the name of that song, and
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to say anything. The ending was fine, I guess. It's not how I would have ended the movie.
It's
but
typical of the era, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, I would have had the deer crash into the bar while we're eating breakfast. Everyone stares at it, and it just backs away slowly. A little bit of levity, I think, was needed at the end of that movie. So, no, I'm just kidding, of course.
Play the Benny Hill theme too.
But I like, yeah. I mean,
it's a fine ending. I mean, for the kind of film it is, I mean, it's acceptable. It's nothing like, oh my god, it should have been happy. I'm like, it's not a happy movie. Why should it have a happy ending?
It shouldn't have a happy ending. Yeah, I like that scene. Them after the funeral, they're all at the bar meeting up, drinks and having breakfast, and then he goes to cook the eggs, and he kind of breaks down a bit there. And I think it's really nice. And
the other guy,
and
I mean, when it comes to
film,
this,
filming. I mean, the shots were fantastic, like you were saying earlier. The locations,
beautiful.
Beautiful. The Cascade Mountains in Washington. Although it's so obvious to me that it's not filmed in Pennsylvania or Appalachia, or that's where it's supposed to be, right? The town was filmed in Ohio or something, and it looks like it, right?
Yeah,
but the mountain scenes they chose to film in the totally different mountains, and to me, it makes it obvious that
Oh,
It's
if you
not
know the
weird. So.
terrain, probably. I didn't,
Yeah,
so
maybe it's because
I knew
know
I
it.
knew no better. So I was like, oh, look, pretty scenery.
Yeah, when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, that's like Washington State or something up there, or
Yeah.
maybe even Canada. I knew it wasn't filmed in Canada, but I was like, that is definitely not Pennsylvania where those mountains are at. You
Hey,
know,
that's my
there's no mountains like
backyard.
that.
That's not
Yeah,
America.
yeah. Vietnam scenes were filmed in Thailand. Um,
Well,
and
yeah,
actually, the initial roulette scene was filmed on the River Kwai. There's
really.
no bridge this time, though. No bridge.
So Obi-Wan Kenobi was in a oven during this entire
Yeah.
time while they were playing Russian Roulette.
That's a shout out to the bridge on River Kwai, which we've covered. That was Best Picture.
Check
as
out that
well,
episode, guys. So
yeah, check it out. Good movie. I really enjoyed that one.
I didn't, but
You didn't like it, but I like it a lot. I think it's a fantastic film.
but
And
anyway, I mean, ultimately, when it comes to this film, you know that saying, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts."
sure.
To me, it's the opposite. It is the sum of its parts is greater than the whole. Like, again, the way it's shot is beautiful. The acting is great. Some of the scenes are great. Some of the writing is very good. Some of the music is good. Ultimately, though, when you put it all together, to me, it's kind of a mess. It's not coherent at times. I don't feel like it resonates with me as strongly as it should. Is it a terrible movie? No, absolutely not. It's a pretty good film for what it is, for the reasons I mentioned, but it could have been much, much, much better. So if we get into final ratings here, I personally would give it a 6 out of 10. It's okay, ultimately.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I actually agree with a lot of what you said. It's a good movie. I really enjoy it. I'll probably even watch it again one day, maybe once. Like I said, I'd seen it once before, and when I was a kid, and definitely enjoyed it a lot more this time. But yeah, it's a bit too long, and there are some parts with some dialogue issues here and there. I found sometimes the sound mixing to be problematic, especially earlier in the movie with the wedding and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But some questionable choices with the depictions, sure, but I don't think any of that breaks this movie or anything. I think the problem with this movie is it's a good movie, but it could have been a really, really good movie.
Agreed.
Like, that's what I think. But all in all, it is a good movie. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10.
There you go. All right, guys. And that is The Deer Hunter. For the next film, the title makes it sound like it's a boxing movie, but it's not. That's all I'm going to say about it for now.
That's funny. And as always, guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button and comment, subscribe. I know there's some Deer Hunter fans out there, and Robert De Niro fans, and Meryl Streep. So let us know what you think about this movie, and tune in next time. Peace.